Welcome to Startup Brainframe, where we explore cross-domain synthesis for startups who want to build the future. Today, we're doing a deep dive into, well, a really foundational story of disruption. We're talking about maybe the ultimate rebel founder duo in modern sports history, Billy Beane and Peter Brand of the 2002 Oakland A's, the whole Moneyball story.
Yeah, and it's so much more than just baseball stats, isn't it? If you only see it that way, you kind of miss the bigger picture. Fundamentally, this was a startup story. Think about it. Building something totally new, totally different, right inside this huge, old, rigid system, Major League Baseball itself.
Absolutely. Even though Billy and Peter weren't technically founders in the Silicon Valley sense, they absolutely acted like them. It was a high-risk venture, very low resources, and they faced all those classic startup hurdles, didn't they?
Oh, completely. The intense pushback, that feeling of doubt, the loneliness, it's all there. Plus, the really messy process of trying to innovate when you're up against giants like the Yankees, who just had way more money.
Exactly. So our mission today is to look at their whole approach, but through a purely behavioral lens.
Right. We want to unpack the cognitive stuff, the contrarian thinking, the sheer mental resilience, and really understanding biases. Because that's the key to any real breakthrough, whether you're launching an app or, well, trying to win a World Series on a shoestring budget.
Okay, let's start with scene one, really. That iconic scouting room meeting. Billy walks in.
Yeah.
And the veteran scouts are there evaluating players based on things that are just subjective doesn't even cover it. It's almost absurd.
Totally. You hear lines like, he's got an ugly girlfriend. Ugly girlfriend means no confidence.
Right. Or the ball just sounds right off his bat. What does that even mean?
It's funny, but it's also a perfect, almost painful example of System 1 thinking. That's the brain's fast lane, intuitive, emotional, making snap judgments. They weren't analyzing. They were just running on pattern recognition, totally clouded by years of ingrained bias.
So they felt certain, that powerful gut certainty. What specific mental shortcuts were tripping them up there?
Well, you see at least two big ones playing out. First, definitely confirmation bias. They're only seeing or remembering info that fits their old narrative of what a star player looks like. Anything else gets ignored.
Okay.
And second, the halo effect. That's where you link completely unrelated things. Like if a player seems confident or looks good, they assume he must be a great performer, even if the stats say otherwise.
So the emotional brain tags it first.
Exactly. That gut certainty is the emotional shortcut firing off before the slower, more analytical part of the brain, the CEO brain, if you even gets a chance to look at the actual data.
It's great for dodging danger, maybe, but a total disaster for strategy. So for a founder listening right now, how do you guard against your own gut reactions like that?
You have to actively hunt down your own biases, really stress test your assumptions, especially the big ones, like hiring decisions or your core strategy. Use data, sure, but also talk to skeptical colleagues, mentors, maybe even use AI tools now to challenge your thinking. Basically, don't just trust your gut when the stakes are high and real analysis is needed.
Okay, so Billy sees the old system is broken. He needs a new way to think about it. That leads to that pivotal meeting with Peter Brand.
Yes. The young economics grad.
Who just reframes the whole problem in, minutes.
It's such a key moment. And Peter delivers that line, the one that really changed everything, not just for the A's, but arguably for sports analytics. He says, most people think in terms of buying players. Your goal shouldn't be to buy players. Your goal should be to buy wins. And to buy wins, you need to buy runs.
It sounds almost obvious when you hear it now, right? But that's pure second-order thinking. It's moving beyond the simple linear idea money buys players. Instead, it's a causal map. Use data to find undervalued skills. Those specific skills reliably create runs. And runs, not just star names, are what actually produce wins.
And making that mental leap is, it's cognitively difficult. Our brains are kind of lazy, fundamentally. They want the easy path, the familiar neural connection. Innovation demands you actively suppress those default pathways. You have to fire up the reasoning centers, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex to connect variables in new ways. It's genuinely hard mental work to change the basic equation you operate under.
Which really brings us to an actionable tip for founders listening. Scrutinize your core metrics. Are you measuring vanity metrics, things that look good but don't matter, or are you measuring what actually drives the outcome?
Yeah, are you measuring the players or are you measuring the runs in your business? Find the causal engine.
So they have this new framework. Brilliant. But putting it into practice means conflict. immediate, intense conflict with the establishment.
Oh, yeah. There's that scene where Billy is just so frustrated in the scout meeting. He basically says, look, if we play like the Yankees in here, meaning if we think like them, we're going to lose to them out there.
That's pure cognitive independence, isn't it? Sticking to your guns based on logic, even when the whole room is against you.
It is, and it comes at a real psychological cost. Humans, we're wired to fit in. Our mirror neuron systems push us towards conformity, towards social cohesion, kept us safe evolutionarily. So when you deliberately go against the grain, when you choose your data over the crowd's opinion, it actually triggers the brain's threat circuits. It feels dangerous, even if it's just an argument in an office.
Which means maybe if you, as a founder, are getting a lot of pushback, a lot of ridicule from the old guard,
Right.
you might actually be onto something important.
Exactly. That criticism could be a sign you're on the right track.
Yeah.
Breakthroughs are almost always laughed at before they become the new standard.
So the takeaway feels a bit tough, but necessary. Stop just copying the incumbents. Stop outsourcing your strategic thinking because it feels safer or easier.
You have to question everything, even the so-called best practices. Think from first principles. The mindset has to be, we don't just compete. We redefine the entire game with our own playbook.
But let's be real, they didn't have much choice but to be radical, given their budget.
No, they didn't.
There's that other meeting where Billy acknowledges how tough their situation is, but he frames it again, doesn't he? He says something like, we're card counters at the blackjack table, and we're going to turn the odds.
That's such a great line. And it's a perfect illustration of constraint-driven cognition. When you have scarcity, less money, maybe fewer resources, fewer star options, it actually forces certain parts of your brain, like the anterior cingulate cortex, to work harder. It sharpens focus.
So it's not just bad stress.
No, it can create optimal stress. The lack of resources forces you to be smarter, more focused, better at allocating attention. It turns the constraint into a catalyst.
It prunes the wasteful thinking, maybe.
So if you're listening and you feel underfunded or outnumbered, try to reframe it. Use that scarcity. When you can't outspend, you simply must outthink.
Okay, but even with the great theory and the constraint catalyst, the reality hits hard. Internal rebellion from staff.
Yep, the manager refusing to play the Moneyball players.
The inevitable losing streak at the start.
Yep.
And then the media just piled on. It's a pressure cooker.
And this is where cognitive dissonance really bites. That's the intense mental stress when your core beliefs clash head-on with the painful reality of losing day after day.
How do you handle that? How do you know if you're being resilient or just stubborn and wrong?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The key is evaluating the process, not just the immediate outcome. Did we stick to the data? Did we follow the framework we believed in? If the answer is yes, then much of the noise is external pressure. And that pressure is real. Think about that scene with Billy's daughter asking if he's going to get fired. Public doubt activates the same pain centers in the brain as physical injury.
Wow.
So you have to practice reframing that discomfort. Treat the criticism as noise, maybe even as proof you're shaking things up. Because, and this is crucial, your resilience is the neural return on your suffering.
That's powerful. So conviction isn't just being stubborn, it's like a muscle you build through reps of sticking to your logic under fire.
Exactly. It strengthens over time with practice. Handle the criticism, listen for valid points, but don't let sheer dissent derail you if your reasoning is sound.
And then the tide turns. The A's start winning consistently. The model is finally validated by results.
Yes. And that's when reinforcement learning really kicks in powerfully.
Explain that a bit. What's happening in the brain then?
So the brain's reward system, driven by dopamine, starts firing. It rewards that consistent progress. The focus shifts maybe from just surviving to actually seeing the wins stack up. Each win, each positive data point confirming the model, releases a little hit of dopamine. It literally teaches the brain, okay, this hard, uncomfortable, contrarian process actually works. Do more of this.
So the actionable tip becomes fall in love with the process, the daily grind, the iterating, the learning.
Absolutely. Train your brain to get dopamine from the refinement and the progress itself, not just waiting for some huge exit or final victory. Treat progress like neurochemical currency for the long haul.
And that leads eventually to the 20-game winning streak, which is just astonishing.
It really is. And that streak, you could argue, is the outcome of achieving predictive mastery. The brain's strategic pathways have now fully integrated all that feedback, the wins, the losses, the data. Foresight improves. You start anticipating success because you understand the mechanics of how to achieve it. It's like neural compounding in action.
So you move from just hoping it works
to knowing how and why it works.
Okay, another tip then. When you get a win, don't just celebrate and move on.
Right. Deconstruct it. Ask why did this work? What was the pattern? Document it. Reinforce it. Teach your brain and your team how to make success repeatable, predictable.
Then comes maybe the ultimate test of their framework, but on a personal level for Billy. The season ends, and the Boston Red Sox offer him the biggest contract in baseball history to become their GM.
And he turns it down.
Which is stunning from a purely external rewards perspective. But he'd made a decision based purely on money early in his playing career and deeply regretted it.
Exactly. This decision isn't about external validation or money. It's about intrinsic motivation. It's driven by his identity, his purpose, the meaning he found in building something unique with Oakland. That's anchored deeper in the brain, in the medial prefrontal cortex. By rejecting that massive external reward, he's essentially prioritizing his inner values. It rewires the reward system in a way.
For founders listening, that feels like the crux, doesn't it? The line between building purely for a quick exit versus building something meaningful that aligns with who you are.
It is. Purpose-driven motivation taps into deeper, more sustainable neural circuits. Build for meaning, build something you believe in, and very often the external rewards like money follow anyway, almost as a byproduct.
One last thing we should touch on: those quieter moments. The scenes between Billy and his daughter, they feel important.
They're absolutely crucial. Think of them as the neurochemical reset button.
How so?
Those moments of connection, of grounding, they activate hormones like oxytocin and serotonin. These actively calm the nervous system. They counteract the constant stress, the cortisol overload that comes from living in that state of chronic uncertainty and pressure. They literally stabilize you.
So it's not just nice to have. Those close relationships are vital emotional regulators.
Completely vital, especially under the kind of chronic stress founders endure. Be present in those relationships. Let them replenish you. Because without that emotional foundation, eventually, even the best strategy can start to crumble.
Okay, let's wrap this up. If we had to distill maybe 3 core lessons from this whole Moneyball deep dive, looking through that behavioral lens, what would they be?
All right, lesson 1, I'd say, is clearly necessity is the mother of invention. That constraint-driven thinking, using scarcity to spark innovation, that's the foundation.
Yeah, okay. Lesson 2 for me is about control. You can't control your funding, the market conditions, who your competitors are, but you absolutely can control how you play that hand. That internal locus of control is key.
Well said. And lesson 3 has to be about the power of cross-domain synthesis. Real breakthroughs happen at the intersections. Beane and Brand didn't just rely on baseball gut feel or just on spreadsheets. They fused baseball intuition with economic reasoning and data analytics. That fusion creates revolutions.
So, the final call to action for everyone listening: go identify the beliefs, the assumptions, maybe even the best practices you've inherited that might not be serving you anymore. Maybe try that why rule. Ask why you believe it, then ask why again 3, 4, 5 times until you get to the real root.
Stress test those core beliefs.
Right.
Be willing to clear out the old neural pathways that aren't working to make space for new, better ones.
Because that's how you build better mental models.
And ultimately, better companies.
Thanks for your time and investment into our show. See you in the next episode.